The San Francisco 49ers find themselves under heavy scrutiny after their loss to the Minnesota Vikings, not only from fans, but analysts across the league, even former players like Rob Gronkowski, who joins the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams to discuss what he is expecting from the San Francisco 49ers offense, and they're just not meeting that. He also goes as far to say that they don't have an it guy on that offense, which is a pretty interesting take considering all of the weapons that they have on that offense. So I'm going to let you listen to his take, and I think I know exactly what he's saying. And so we'll put it through the Gronk translator after you have an opportunity to listen to it, and I'll tell you exactly what I think he's saying right here.
I'm going to ask you about the Niners because that was your NFC choice. It's mine as well. They, obviously Christian's on IR right now. Deebo Samuel, he'll miss a couple of weeks with a calf injury. Some people, critics, if you will, they're saying that Purdy's only successful because of the guys that are around him and the system. How will he do without his stars, do you think?
That will definitely give us a test to see where Purdy is. You got Samuel going to be out. Christian McCaffrey's going to be out.
Who do they have this week? Let me look.
They got so many weapons. I don't know why they're not producing. Why are they not putting up points like the New Orleans Saints every single week in and week out? That's the problem with the 49ers last year as well, is that they dominated some games, and then some games they just didn't show up and they couldn't produce. They should be producing week in and week out, especially with offensive-minded coach Kyle Shanahan, and then with all the weapons that they have. They need that it guy. I feel like they got a lot of weapons, but they just don't have like an it guy to turn it up. Yeah, Ayuk, he's a great guy, but look, he was holding out
George
the whole
Kittle?
time. George Kittle, they're
Four-time
great players.
All-Pro?
But I'm talking,
What do you
need
mean?
an it guy, like an it guy.
Who's
like Edelman was an it guy.
Are you telling me that Kittle's not an it guy?
He's an it guy, but I'm talking like when it comes to crunch time, it's, hey, feed me that ball. I feel like, they're great playmakers, and they all rely on the other one to make the play because there's so many great weapons. You know what I mean? When you have so many great players around you, you rely, he's going to make the play. That guy's going to make the play. But when you don't have so many, like when Edelman was out there
but Brady made
or myself out there, it's give me that ball, feed me the ball.
Edelman missed a lot of time, and you missed a lot of time, and Brady made it guys out of Chris Hogan.
Because Brady was the it guy.
No disrespect to Hogan, but
Hogan was kind of an it guy too. He had that mentality of feed me the ball, I want it, I'm going to do whatever.
It's mentality,
whatever it takes. It's mentality, and I feel like Trent Williams has that mentality.
Yeah.
He will go out there and he tosses people around. That's what you want, and he's doing it 24/7.
Are you calling out the grittiness of this team? What are you doing,
just
Rob?
that mentality. They should be dominating.
Yeah.
They should be. No matter who's on the field or whoever's down. They have so many replacement players as well. Their roster's stacked.
He's not finishing drives. That's what I'm looking at. I feel like he's throwing a lot of. Does he lead the league in yards right now? I think he does. Brock Purdy's like that guy in a way, but finishing drives has been an issue.
So the main point that Rob is talking about, he's saying that the 49ers need an it guy. They have the coach, they have the scheme. They should be demolishing teams. It shouldn't look like this, regardless of it being week 2 and early on in the season. They should be going to Minnesota and taking care of business with all the stars that they have on that offense. Granted, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, and then Deebo Samuel gets hurt late. But all things considered, it's the same offensive line. It's the same skill positions. Obviously, you swap out Jordan Mason with CMC, and Jordan Mason's been playing phenomenal. So we can't even really say it's a running back issue because JP's been great. So this is my interpretation of it. And you can kind of pick up on what he's saying. He's saying it without saying it because I think we understand any type of Brock Purdy critique, maybe, or criticism will generate a certain response, will generate headlines, will generate quotes. So what I believe Gronk said, without actually saying it, is he doesn't believe Brock Purdy is that it factor. He doesn't believe he's that it guy. He even referenced Tom Brady when they were like, he was talking about Edelman, right? He was like, Edelman was that guy who just, had that it factor. He was the spark. He was constantly pushing these guys forward, and Kay Adams was like, yeah, Tom Brady. He was like, yeah, exactly. Tom was the it guy. And you're like, So that's what you're saying. He is saying basically that Brock Purdy isn't that it guy. He's saying that Brock Purdy needs to step up. He needs to take on that role of being that leading force. And so do I disagree with Gronk? No, because I think we all understand every quarterback needs to be that it guy, the best quarterbacks in the NFL or the it guy. And we know Brock Purdy has found tremendous success with the San Francisco 49ers, the offense, the scheme, and all of those things. So this is my interpretation and my take off of Rob's take. There, when I was doing the film breakdown, it definitely wasn't Brock's best game. It didn't look like he was seeing the field like he typically would, which was an interesting kind of development. So I'm not used to it. I'm used to Brock seeing everything crystal clear, not like making clean, concise decisions. And it just felt like he just wasn't seeing everything. But when the 49ers were behind and they were trying to claw their way back into that game, there was a noticeable shift in Brock, at least that I saw, in his energy, in the way he was throwing, in the way he was coming back. It felt like that it factor kicked in. And I talked about that on my film breakdown. You could see the way Brock was operating at the end of that game. He was willing this team forward. He was making difficult throws. He was challenging. He was making good reads. He was throwing the ball really hard. There was a couple instances where I was like, wow, that was a laser. Now, obviously, a little too late in the process, unfortunately. So the 49ers weren't able to come back and complete that victory. But I think what Gronk is saying is he needs to see the quarterback be the alpha. I really think that's what he's saying. I think amongst all the kind of back and forth and just kind of talking through the situation, not really naming Brock, I do believe at the core of what Rob is saying is he's saying Brock needs to be the it guy. They have all the weapons, right? They have the offensive staff. When you listen to what he's saying, they need that it guy. He's saying Brock needs to be that it guy. And to be fair, I don't disagree. But I'm also saying as well that I think Brock is that it guy. I think that is a natural evolution and development of Brock Purdy playing quarterback. Because let's not forget, I know Rob is very close to the Tom Brady situation and the Patriots, but let's face it, Tom wasn't that right away. Those Patriots teams were Tom just not making mistakes, making the correct reads and getting everything into place. And the defense led by Bill Belichick and all those great players on the defensive side were really the driving force of that team. Now, obviously, over time, it evolved to Tom Brady's team. And again, I think that's what this season is. This season, to me, is the evolution of Brock going from a guy who could manage this offense masterfully, make all the correct decisions and all of those things, and more so to that guy who is the pulling factor of this guy, the it guy, as Rob was talking about. So I do agree in one sense that I would expect that the 49ers offense would be throwing points up left and right on everyone. I think we all understand and believe that to be the case as well, especially with Brock at quarterback. So I'm looking at this as more of an evolution. I didn't expect Brock to, Mr. Irrelevant come in and just take over this team. He's talked about it. He's talked about how it's a process of not only finding your role within the team, but building your confidence within the team and continuing to build that up. So Brock's only 24 years old. It's important to remember that. And it's important to remember that he's still a relatively inexperienced quarterback, regardless of all the great things that he's done so far. It's truly remarkable. So for me, I don't necessarily preface it in the same way as Gronk, more so of the fact that I can see what he's saying and I don't disagree with it, but I also think he's coming from it from a different angle where, he's not close to the situation. So he might be perceiving it a little bit more black and white. As I'm looking at it, and you look at the playoff games against Detroit, and you look at the playoff game against the Green Bay Packers, when they were down, he turned into that it guy. When the 49ers were down against the Minnesota Vikings, that it guy came out. I saw it. I talked about it on my film breakdown. So my thing is, let's see that for 60 minutes. Let's see that fire, that urgency from the first snap to the end. And it's not like we haven't seen that before. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying now is the perfect time. And this isn't for anyone else. This isn't for media. This isn't for detractors, guys who want to see him fail. This is just for Brock, and my evaluation of Brock is that he is ready to take that next step to really be that driving force of the offense, not just someone who is efficiently executing and playing point guard and doing all the things that he does really, really well. There's an evolution, right? Everyone is either getting better or getting worse. So with Brock, he's already really good at that point guard role. Now, the next step in the evolution of him as a quarterback is to be that presence for 60 minutes. We know he can do it. We've seen it. I just referenced the examples. We just saw it last week. It just didn't come to fruition. Now, 60 minutes of that. And I think that's really what Rob is saying. He's really saying Brock needs to be that guy, regardless of all the weapons and future Hall of Famers surrounding him. He needs to be the driving force to push this forward. Steve Young said something very similar. So this is my interpretation, and I don't think this is necessarily a critique of Brock. I think it's more so just understanding what the quarterback position requires and what elite quarterbacks do. And if we are going to contextualize Brock as an elite quarterback, he has to do elite quarterback things, which isn't just be efficient, be accurate, and play within the system of the scheme. It is to expand. It is to create. It is to be the driving force, which we know he can be. It's just, again, it's an evolution. So I'm more of the mindset of I see it, I know he's capable of it, but it's a process. So getting to, like, by the end of the year, my goal for Brock would be to see him to be that driving force for 60 minutes every single game. And there we've seen games where he has done that. So again, I'm also not saying he hasn't. I think, again, this is a delicate conversation because of the narratives that have been created around Brock. It makes the conversation and nuance around Brock kind of difficult to have. So I'm just trying to make sure I cover all my bases, because you guys know I'm a huge fan of Brock. But I do think, just like every single player, they all have evolutions to their game. Brock has checked every box with flying colors from the start, but there's still a couple boxes to check, and that's fine. That's what happens when you become elite at what you do. You don't just check the boxes of really, really good. You have to jump into that tier of elite, and then you check off those boxes. And those are the boxes that I do believe Rob is pointing out, and I don't necessarily disagree with. So let me know what you guys. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.